Welcome to the Enlightened Misfits Podcast, a space for spiritual entrepreneurs who refuse to settle for anything less than their purpose. I am your host, Lauren Perlingi. After surviving a near-death experience and being declared gone for 3 minutes, I woke up with a mission to help women turn self-sabotage into self-compassion and fear into fuel. Here, we're going to dive into raw conversations, practical tools, and inspiring stories designed to help you break free from old patterns, claim your voice, and build a business that lights up your soul. If you've ever felt like you don't fit the mold, you're in the right place. This is where misfits rise into their power. Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits Podcast. If you are new here, I am your host, Lauren Perlingi, and I'm an intuitive human design business guide, trauma-informed healer, and I help sensitive, spiritual-led entrepreneurs understand how they're wired emotionally, energetically, so they can stop forcing life and business and start making aligned decisions that actually feel good for them. And today I am joined by Rosa Hope. She is an award-winning astrophysicist, mentor, mystic who bridges science, spirit through her work in transpersonal hypnosis, integration, and conscious exploration. Rosa, I'm so, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Can I get the words out? Consciousness exploration. Rosa, I'm so happy that you're here with us. But can you kind of introduce yourself in your own words and how you found your way through this intersection of mysticism, hypnosis, and astrophysics?
Sure. Thanks. Yeah. First of all, Lauren, I want to thank you for having me. Yeah, it's a lot of word salad, right? But I'm glad we got that out of the way.
Right.
So I am I'm a PhD astrophysicist. But unlike many people in this space who were a hard scientist and materialist and then had a awakening or something and now they're spiritual, I have actually been a mystic my entire life. So in a sense, yes, I bridge science and spirit in what I do and in my practice, but in a sense, it's kind of who I am. It's who I've always been. Right now, my work is about helping people make sense of their own profound spiritual experiences in a way that helps them get free, that helps them heal their hearts. And I do that largely through integration work, transpersonal hypnosis, QHHT, and all of that is tied in with spiritual mentorship and teaching also. In a sense, my background in astrophysics, I think, gave me this sort of cosmic perspective, but it also gave me really good discernment, which I think comes from a scientific worldview. I think sometimes we confuse these terms, like scientific and materialistic are the same thing, and they're not. So there are many scientists who are not materialists. A materialist thinks that the only thing that is real is the stuff we can touch, the stuff we can measure with a detector or with a telescope. But in a sense, astrophysicists know there's a lot in the universe that we can't measure with a detector or find with a telescope. That's part of the research that we do. So in a sense, hardcore materialism is not something that's widespread throughout all of science, even though the narrative we hear makes it sound like it is. My spiritual background is very heart-centered. So it's all about compassion and embodiment. I have done a lot of work to expand and master my own consciousness. But in a sense, my background in physics, I know there's a lot of conversations about quantum physics and quantum mechanics and how it connects with spirituality. I would actually argue that we're kind of past all that. The real question is around consciousness. What is consciousness? What is the role that it plays, not just in our lives or if we have kind of quirky, spooky abilities or something? It's it's an interface. It's an interface between us and each other and the universe, and understanding the nature of consciousness, I think, is where the future really lies. In a sense, quantum mechanics, I'm it's statistics, but it's consciousness that's the interesting thing. But I guess my kind of mantra, or what I share with the people that want to work with me, is that our goal is not to transcend the physical. We're not trying to escape. We're trying to make the physical transcendent through mastering our consciousness, through expanding our compassion, through healing our hearts. So that's how I live. That's what my practice is centered on. And that's kind of what I'm all about.
Yeah, I love that because, and especially, and I love that you brought up the topic of like quantum, and because, let's just say that it's been a huge word out there that people are using, and I don't really think that people really understand it. And from your expertise and background, the way that you just described that little piece, can you kind of talk a little bit more about, like, if a listener is listening, like, okay, so she said something about consciousness. Can you kind of go in a little bit deeper on to, like, what is it? And like, what is the difference between, like you said, the quantum and, like, maybe like some data that people could physically, like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
So I think what you're asking me is what is consciousness? And I'm
Right.
like, that's the $1,000,000 question, girlfriend. Like, we don't know. Nobody knows what consciousness is. Is it what we are? Is it what all of this is? It's absolutely an open question. It is a term that we use to describe, in a sense, like being self-aware. But I've spent almost a decade now as a hypnotist, going into very deep levels of trance with people. And based on what I've heard from my clients, I'm not sure our concept of self-awareness is broad enough. Because in my sessions, I've gotten to hear people talk about what it's like to be a rock, what it's like to be a machine, what it's like to be the wind. You know what I'm saying? So, in a sense, I don't think consciousness is limited by like a functional brain or even a functional nervous system. There are ways to kind of experience a state of being. And that's where I kind of understand what consciousness is. It's what it's like to be you or anything, what it's like to be a glass of water, what it's like to be a cloud in the sky. So, in a sense, that experience is really tied to what I think consciousness is. Now, as a hypnotist, I work with altered states of consciousness all the time. And what that really means is that we consider our baseline consciousness to be this awake, aware, problem solving state that is economically fruitful. The way we are when we are working, the way we are when we're solving a puzzle or solving a problem or building something. That is a cultural value. If you go outside of, I would say, modern Western culture, you will find that there are many other states of consciousness that are more highly valued than this awake, aware, problem solving state. It's considered baseline because of our culture. That's not a fact. It's an idea, it's a value, it's an opinion. And in my work, I found that if what you're interested in is healing, or if what you're interested in is peace or closure or resolution, the awake, aware, problem solving state has very limited capacity to help you with those things. So, in a sense, the ability to navigate different aspects of your own consciousness or different levels of your own consciousness is part of becoming masterful at being a human person and dealing with all the things that come to us in our lives. Because we make some of our own drama, especially when we're young and dumb, right? But as you get older and get your act together, life is what brings it to you. You're not creating it anymore, but you still need the capacity to be with it and handle it. And I found that different practices that use different states of consciousness to do so really provide for us in those ways and offer new and different tools for most people, for like being with their lives, for like handling our experience as humans in the modern world.
Yeah. And I think, too, speaking to the point you said about, when people hear, hypnosis, what I found from when like my own clients that would say that, or people, like you said earlier, it's like people think it's like surface level. Like, can you
Mhm.
kind of explain? I know that you did a little bit of explaining with the transpersonal hypnosis, but like, can you kind of
Right.
explain how that would open somebody up to, like, maybe a spiritual healing or even expand their own consciousness, however that looks for them?
Sure. So, well, hypnosis is one tool in your toolbox, right? Most people are familiar with either stage hypnosis, like cluck like a chicken, or they're familiar with clinical hypnosis, like cigarettes taste bad. It's like that. You know what I mean? Which uses the power of suggestion to try to change your behavior. That type of hypnosis is pretty surface level. You don't have time to go deep. You don't have the trust established to go really deep. Um, it can still be very effective, especially in a clinical environment where someone's coming back, for 10 sessions or whatever, and has time to like establish a new habit. The type of hypnosis I do falls under the umbrella of transpersonal hypnosis. The foundation of that is transpersonal psychology, which believes that our consciousness is not tied to the body. Our consciousness has the ability to basically connect with information, connect with other forms of consciousness, connect with other people beyond the body. It's not limited by the body. It can travel far and wide and access all types of states and information. So when we start there and go into very deep levels of trance, not surface level stuff, but even in a sense, past life regressions are a type of transpersonal hypnosis. And
Okay.
for me, that's actually considered a relatively light level. Like you can access information from other lives and other periods of time. It's not too dissimilar from remote viewing in a way. You're just remote viewing a different life experience. But in the type of hypnosis I do, that's still relatively light level. We try to go much deeper in order for people to gain a much broader perspective that comes from connecting with what we would call the higher self or the collective consciousness. As far as they can go, everyone's in a different place. Everyone can
Right.
kind of access at a different level. And also, practice makes perfect. People who have been meditating for a long time tend to be able to reach very broad perspectives using these techniques. People who are brand new, it just kind of sounds like themselves a little bit, but maybe
Right.
kinder and more compassionate and thinking about what really matters. It's like it's like a more evolved version of oneself, your own high self, you might say. Um, they're all related. They use similar techniques because the idea is to relax the body and to make a person suggestible, right? But the role I play, the type of hypnosis I do, so in a sense, both transpersonal hypnosis and QHHT are very similar. QHHT is one technique that falls under the umbrella of transpersonal hypnosis, but
Okay.
the idea is that it's a collaboration between the hypnotist and the client. It's not the practitioner doing something to the client. It's more like a rally car where the client's higher self is driving and the hypnotist is helping them navigate sitting in the passenger seat. So it's this collaborative experience where, the client is reporting what they're experiencing or seeing. I'm helping them navigate these altered states and maybe strange things they might encounter, or entities, or landscapes, or very abstract experiences. But it's sort of like the body of knowledge I have from working with so many people and having a background in metaphysics and mysticism helps provide kind of the anchor, the grounding, and the support so that they can go as deep as possible, get whatever healing and information and integration they can get while they're in this altered state, and then help bring them back to the present day and time and get really grounded back here and like ready to do the work with all the things that they learned.
Yeah. So that triggered my next question of like when you're talking about, past lives, and there's this big idea that I've been hearing lately about, death and beyond death, and um, using hypnosis to move through like a death experience and like gain
Mm-hmm.
wisdom from the other side. Like,
Oh,
what
yes.
does that mean in your work? And like, what kind of insights do people kind of like commonly like receive? Because like I've had near death experiences, and at the time I didn't know what was happening, and like moving through my own journey, I'm realizing like, oh, like you always hear this, like there's always more behind, like people are so scared of death. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I've never had that fear. And it's like, where does that come from?
The fear is the ego. because the
Well,
ego
yeah.
understands that it only has a role while you're embodied. When you're no longer embodied, the
Right.
personality of who you are today does dissolve into the ether. The lessons that you learn remain, but the ego has a limited stint on stage. So there's a reason why the ego's so afraid of death, because it will, you're a drop in the ocean, you
Right.
know, and you're separate now, but when you get back in the ocean, you're going to be ocean again. You know, so I sympathize with that kind of existential dread of death, but I don't experience that or share that myself. And I actually take most of my clients through the death experience. Most. It's not
Oh,
appropriate
okay.
for everybody, but
Right.
this is like very normal for me. And what's interesting about it is
Yeah.
that when you, not in their current life, because we go through like it, we do it in a past life. You don't want to take someone through in the current life, that can get sticky. But
Yeah.
in a past life,
Imagine.
it's no problem. They already did it, right?
Yeah.
So they've already been there, done that. But what's interesting is that in the work that I do, taking clients through the death experience, it's just like you were sitting in a chair and you stood up.
Hmm.
It's just like that. It's not the actual process of dying. The rough part is when you're still in your body. As soon as you're out of your body, you're fine. And many people have very common experiences. For example, the life review, getting to look over everything that just happened and seeing it from a different perspective. Sometimes you get to
Right.
see the nasty things you did from the perspective of the person you did it to.
Right.
You get a chance to look through everything that just happened, and it's like there's no judgment on the other side except from yourself. So you get to see everything that happened and be like, oh man, I knew I shouldn't have done it and I did it anyway. I'm going to try to remember that for next time. Or
Right.
like, man, I really nailed it. I'm glad that that landed the way I expected it to. Essentially, it's like you see the flaws in your own character, but the only judgment's coming from you. It's you trying to learn. It's you trying to learn to be more loving, to be more present, and to give your attention to the things that actually matter. Not the BS that we are fed matters, not status anxiety, not the size of your paycheck, not the size of your butt. None of that stuff actually matters. It helps you see what really matters. And besides that, there are, again, very common experiences: a beam of light or a tunnel. Sometimes the tunnel's dark, sometimes the tunnel's light. It doesn't really matter. Sometimes there's a sensation of very rapid movement. Like people think about Star Trek when the ship goes at warp speed, and they might feel like they're physically going at warp speed somewhere. They don't know where they're going, but it's almost like being, that's what it feels like, is this sort of shoo, that's happening. And then some clients, not as many. So some clients kind of finish there because sometimes people are a little nervous about going too far on the other side, like they're not ready to think about the afterlife and what's happening once you leave the body. They kind of
Right.
stop with the life review. But the people who are interested, or sometimes that have a relative or loved one who's passed on that they need to speak with, they
Right.
will go. They'll go to the other side and get to have some conversations or some experiences. So, for example, if there's someone who had a message to deliver, it's usually like a mom or a grandma, or it's a relative that passed and something was left unsaid. A lot of times they hop in and they're like, "Oh, you're here, good. I had this thing I needed to tell you," and it's a happy homecoming, and
Right.
everyone's crying, but everyone's very happy to be together and share whatever needed to be said, or give closure to whatever problem did not get resolved. So people try to finish that up there on the other side. This is during hypnosis, so it's like, yeah, we move through. Some people visit certain centers that exist on the other side. They look different to different people, but there seems to be like a university or learning center type of place where you can, or the Akashic records, you might call it, where you can go
Right.
read books, or watch a movie that's teaching you something, or even like take a class. I've had people be like, "Oh, I'm going into a lecture hall and there's one spirit in the front that's like explaining something to all of us." And it's hard for them to verbalize what is being taught, but they can like feel it. They are learning it even if they can't express in words what it is that's being communicated. There are also healing centers where people go rest. So it's like they will go. Sometimes it's like a stained glass dome or like a purple fog. It takes different shapes, but they might go rest and their body gets healed or worked on, or like they receive some healing, like physical healing of some kind too. Um, but it's almost like there are these well-trodden paths just on the other side. And the more you learn about it, or the more you learn about, so I didn't know anything about near-death experiences before I became a hypnotist. I'd like heard of it on 60 Minutes or something, but it's like
Yeah.
I had not gotten into it. And
Right.
then after
Yeah.
working with clients for a couple of years, I started hearing more about it and was like, this is interesting. And as I read about near-death experiences that people were having, I was like, oh, we do this all the time. Like, you don't have to be dead. You could just go see someone who knows how to help you navigate your levels of consciousness, and you can go over there and look something up or talk to your grandpa or whatever needs to happen. It's very accessible with the right tools. So I
Right.
agree with you in that the fear goes away, like the fear.
Yeah.
So I haven't had a some people have spontaneous near death experiences because they get in a car crash or something like that. I have not had that. I have traveled there myself as a client under hypnosis. But in a sense, it's this very familiar territory. It's like as soon as I got there, it's like I recognized everything. I didn't even need a map. It's like you recognize that you've been there before because it's all familiar. You don't even need a tour guide. If you're looking for someone, sometimes you have to ask, like, I'm looking for this person and someone will help you. But it's
Yeah.
it's just funny talking about it like it's such a normal workaday thing. I think to some people maybe this is mind blowing, but for me it's like this just normal thing.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, just us talking about it right now. I mean, yes, I had to learn about it. I didn't know when I was going through my near death, like three different near death experiences, that I learned something different each time, and it wasn't out of a place of fear. I needed to go learn something. I needed to go. It was I seen my grandmother each time, and I needed to, like, I had this belief, deep rooted belief, that I didn't matter. I personally didn't matter. And that was shown to me. And it was like in the 3 minutes that I was declared gone, I realized that shifted everything the last time for me of like, I do matter and everything else here matters. Like it kind of helped
Yeah.
me get out of that victim. I mean, I believe that all of us have to be in this victim mentality at some point to kind of see that lesson, but it helped me shift out of like the things I'm thinking about, the things that I'm doing. Do they really matter? Like, yes, they do. But it's like when it's coming from a place of like a different perspective. And it also gave me a different perspective because I still remember that experience. It's something that I go back to as like data, not really to relive it, but like data as, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm getting back into this loop or something like that. I think it's really powerful. And I speak
Mhm.
about it, and I know that some people are like, that's so dramatic. Oh my. And I'm like, but it's, I mean, sure, I get it if you haven't experienced it, but kind of, unpacking the layers of all of that, I needed to go through that. I
Right.
obviously chose for whatever, wherever, to learn that lesson in this lifetime of that deepest level of everything matters. Like,
Sure.
not
Well, Lauren,
surface
it sounds
level
like
stuff.
it sounds like you had an appointment to keep,
Right.
honestly.
Yes,
you
literally
know?
showing up on time. And I did. And I think that speaking from that place, I think is really empowering, especially because you just said, it's very normal for you because you do it all the time with your clients. And I think even that piece of, if that's all they got from that session, coming from experience, I think that is when somebody really showed me, or I could pinpoint why that happened, and get out of that victim of like, poor me, this is happening to me. Like, it's not happening now. It's like, I can see it from happening for me. I wouldn't be who I
Hmm.
am today. Right. So I think that
That's
that
right.
is probably one of the powerful things, like conjoined to what you said, is really important, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's usually very transformative. It's
Right.
usually very
It was.
transformative.
Yeah.
Um, in the sessions that I run, we record them because
Oh,
sometimes people don't remember very clearly, and it's very important for them to go back and listen to
hmm.
what they said, because as they hear it in their own voice, describe what they see, who they're talking to, what they're experiencing, it helps the ego relax and actually absorb the information and absorb and process the experience that they had. Because sometimes it's easy to kind of brush off a strange or intense experience if it's so different from our everyday that it's like, I can't even, you know?
Right.
So, like, that's a real phenomenon. Um,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's why I think those recordings are important. Or, like, journal, for example, if you have a spontaneous experience, you should write down what happened as soon as you can. Cause it's like you do need it to revisit the way you revisit it, like a data point. Uh, what it is it's an anchor for you. It's an
Right.
anchor and a milestone to remind you of what you have learned and where you're at, you know? And all of us need that because like life comes at you fast and sometimes you
Yep.
get a little off track and you need those anchor points to
Yeah.
bring you back to your center. But you know, no, none of us are here by accident. This isn't me philosophizing. This is people in altered states, like hundreds of people reporting back to me the same information, which is that we are all here on purpose. Your
Right.
incarnation is not an accident. You being who you are, coming from the background you come from, is not an accident.
Right.
So anyone who might feel like they're not doing enough or what they are doing doesn't matter or isn't moving the needle is just not true. We are all
Right.
completely interconnected through our collective consciousness. So even the tiniest change you make inside your head that no one ever hears about, if it's moving you in the direction of compassion and radical responsibility and acknowledgement of our interconnectedness, then you are helping all of us. Individual healing is collective healing. None of those efforts are wasted ever. And even when your life burns down and you find yourself and you feel like you're starting from scratch again, you're
Yeah.
not starting from scratch, first of all, because you've got all the wisdom and all the things that you've learned to build from. But also, like, none of that effort is wasted. Getting to start over is an opportunity because now you can build the real thing or something closer to that aligned lifestyle, that aligned way of being, which you probably wouldn't be able to do if you still had your old life where you're comfortable, right?
Right.
So these big changes, they are harrowing initiations, but
Right.
they're never really bad. Like good and bad is sort of a judgment call that we make. And I encourage all of my clients to start noticing when they
Right.
are equating something hard with something bad, because I almost never find that hard and bad are the same.
Right.
Hard is
No.
how we're challenged, hard is how we grow. Hard is how we learn most of the time humans really like learning from their hard knocks.
Right. And I love that you said that because I actually was just talking to one of my mentors actually yesterday, and she even said the same thing. She goes, Lauren, we all talk about time and freedom and like, things to be easy. And I was like, I don't ever believe that. I've never believed that I wanted something to be easy. Now, does my ego tell me that? Sure. 100%. But like my soul and my heart is like, this is what we came here for. And this challenge, you're not, it's like the quote that it's like humans just like to struggle. And it's not, sure. I guess in some perspective that could be true. But I think that we all come here for an innate reason. And until we find that
Mhm.
reason, or maybe we go this path and we're supposed to go this path, but we go back to that path, I think that that's really powerful when you actually have that desire or pull to do that thing that
Mhm.
or somebody helps you remember that thing of like, oh, I remember why I'm here, or I remember like that is that. That's what humans want. Like that's what we all want.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I love this conversation for a couple reasons. So, I agree with your mentor that ease was never the goal. We are
Right.
here to be love and to show up for each other
Right.
and to shine and to be better organized and like work well together. Like we aren't here to just like kick back. Um Also, I just want to point out that the wealthiest people on the planet are not the happiest by
Right.
far. If what you want is a fulfilling life, ease is not the equation for that. It
Right.
is the equation for some things. Maybe it's the equation for luxury, or maybe it's the equation for um, never getting out of bed, or like, like maybe it's the equation to not having to do dishes every day or something. But it's like, but is that going to make your life better? Is that going to make your life more fulfilling? It's not actually related to each other.
Right.
So, in a sense, it's like I don't want to say that there's no space for ease. I think we need that in order to balance our feminine and masculine aspects. In order to be a being in balance, you need rest and relaxation and nurturing and pampering and comfort. And you also need opportunities to stretch beyond your current boundaries. And that feels hard. And that feels maybe a little scary. And that feels like effort. But I think, to everything, there's a season, right? There is a time and
Right.
a place where effort is called for. And if you're obsessed with ease, what you're going to do is just maybe pay someone else to do the effort instead of you. But that's just kicking the ball downhill. There are ethical implications there too.
Right.
I see a lot of people, well, I don't want to, yeah, again, I'm not trying to be judgy here. Be
Right.
self aware about whether you are actually being in balance or you're just pushing off the hard stuff onto someone else who maybe needs the money more than you or something like that. Just like call in yourself. You don't even have to tell anybody, but it's just like be aware. Be aware of where you're at. So in a sense, it's like I think about this because I pay someone to clean my house. It's
Right.
not that I can't clean my house. I have cleaned my house for 25 years. And and I got to a place where I'm like, I hurt my back when I scrub my shower. So I'm like, okay, I have to balance uh, what makes the most sense for me. And I don't
Right.
feel bad about paying this person for cleaning my house. I am not finding the lowest paid desperate person. I found someone that's like me. I found someone who is middle class, white passing, does this as her full time thing. So it's not like a side gig because she can't make ends meet. This is her thing. This is what she likes to do and how she supports her family. So I'm paying her a living wage to help me with this thing. To me, that's the ethical approach that says, yes, I am making my life easier by not having to clean my shower, but I'm trying to do it in a way that is ethically robust, that is fair, and like she and I are buddies. Like when she comes over, we talk about our kids. Sometimes we like kind of hang out. Like, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's a different kind of relationship and one that is about that balance. It's about an energy exchange rather than
Right.
exploitation. So again, this is not something to like go yell at someone about. It's like look in yourself. The change
Right.
starts within. Look at
Right.
what you're doing and make sure you're above board. And if something doesn't feel right, there's a reason for that. But that's what you want. You want to do the right thing. You want to be above board. You want to live ethically and be fair. If you want the world to be fair, you got to start, right?
Yeah.
Don't expect that everyone else is going to do it, but it's like you're the one that you have control over. So start at home, start it here, do your own housekeeping and like get it together. And what I found in my own life is that the more I got my own house in order, just by being around other people, it has an impact on them. So I've seen changes in my family members, in my parents, like it spreads without you having to do anything. I'm not evangelizing anybody. I'm just being the way I am now in my current state, and it has an impact in the world.
Yeah. And then to that point too, I definitely have always believed that, well, I can only control me, right? And something that my daughter is doing I don't like, I'm like, what am I doing? What is she reflecting back to me? She also is 6, so I'm like, there's that. But it's always same thing with my husband too. Like if there's something that I don't like in our relationship, or I don't look at like you're doing this, you're doing this, I'm like, what am I doing that I need to maybe fix? What am I avoiding? And I really like that you had said that too, because it's that self-awareness piece that one of my clients was said to me the other day, Lauren, I love how self-aware you are. And I said, but you're self-aware too. And it was more of like, maybe I should just take that, like, thank you for that. I received that because, there is some times that I feel like all of us feel like, uh, do we is anybody listening to us, or does what the work that we do matter? There's always some, sometimes this journey feels like very lonely, especially if you're an
Right.
entrepreneur. And I've been hearing that
Hmm.
a lot lately, that it's like, what can you do to for yourself to give back to yourself, like that self-validation that I think is a really integrated crucial part to a lot of people on this spiritual path, that piece is missing.
Yeah, well, and Lauren, I hope you remember in those moments that what you stepped into was answering the call. And the fact
Right.
that you heard the call in the first place means you're doing it. And on the days when it feels like it's not happening, I mean, this goes for everyone, right? And like
Right.
not just for you, but like
Right.
the days when it feels like it's not landing. It's not
Right.
about it's not about one day or another. Those are blips, right?
Right.
But the big picture is you're out in the world trying to help and support people in living a better life, in having a more aligned lifestyle and business, and sort of like living who they really are, living their heart out in the open in the world, which takes a lot of courage and sometimes takes a lot of cheerleading, because I think people get scared.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and like, why wouldn't they? I think when we were children, we get taught not to live our hearts out in the open because kids are mean and say me. Someone might say a mean thing to you. Watch out.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, but I think part of there's a lot that goes into this work, right? There's the spiritual experience where you get major downloads that change your life. But there's
Right.
also like the day-to-day checking in with yourself and being like, does everything I'm doing feel right or feel above board? Or
Right.
like maybe something didn't work or you had a conversation that didn't go well. And I love what you're talking about, because this is how I live too, which is like if something's not working, it's not, sometimes you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes it's just not a match, right? But
Right.
other times, like with my husband, I was thinking about what you said and I was like, this just happened to us, where I was thinking about the disagreement we were having and was like,
Mhm.
well, he, all these things or whatever. And then I turned the camera around to look at me and I'm like, well, where am I falling short?
Right.
And that answer is going to be different depending on the situation. But it's like I was able to see the part that I played and the things I wasn't giving attention or nurture or care to that are really important. And that led us into the conversation that got us out of our disagreement, because we both could take ownership of the roles we played. That helps us move forward together,
Yeah.
So again, it's
I
it's holding yourself to a high standard. It's living
Right.
with integrity,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
was gonna say, I literally was gonna say yes, and then that's literally all about integrity, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that's really important. And I think that the conversation that we've been having is really important, because I often hear and see, lately a lot of people have been coming to me for like relationship advice. And I'm like, why are people coming to me for relationship? This is like, it's not like an odd thing. I shouldn't say that, but
It's a
they
pattern.
look at I'm like, I open it and welcome and like open to it. And I realize it's because I've been doing so much relationship work with in myself, my daughter, and my husband, that I realize there's
Mhm.
a lot of wisdom that I actually have to share. Of course, I use a tool also, like tangibly, people know me as like the human design girl. So
Human
it's like,
design. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I then so was like, wait a second, I've used human design for the relationship piece. Let me just offer, like offer people to like the energy, because it's all energy. So it's like if there's not something working, it's because there's something disconnected, or like there's something like that. So people can kind of resonate it from like, or understand it from that place, versus this is my problem. this is the issue. This is what he's doing. And then I'm always like, wait a second. What are you doing?
Hmm.
What are you doing to put into that? And it's really looking, like you said, turning around the camera, looking at yourself in the mirror. And that's hard. I'm not saying that that is easy, but at the same time, you got to train yourself. And like, again, your body has to be on board with that. And I think that the beginning of this journey, and you can obviously speak to this too, but at the beginning of this journey, if somebody would have told me that my body doesn't have logic and I need my nervous system to be on board with everything that, my all the things that I'm learning and all the things that I'm doing, I, it would be a lot easier, I think, for a lot of,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Um, there are a lot of things about what you said that I find very interesting. So the first is the mirroring aspect, that you've done all this work, and so you're like a little beacon attracting people who need some insight in those areas. So like I see that all the time with my clients, which is that I will be working on some big, you know how this stuff is. When you've been doing this for a while, it's hard to, again, it's like hard to verbalize what the thing is that you're working on right now. But it's like I'll be working on something big in myself. Maybe it's about and my ancestors, or maybe it's about my body or aging or something, or go, like it could be about anything. But when
Right,
I'm doing that work on myself, all the people who come sign up for sessions will be working on these
right,
same topics. And it's like, these are not people I know. They're not friends of mine. They find me on the internet. But it's
right.
that there's like a natural magnetism that occurs between the work that's being done and people who are ready to do it together. I think that's really beautiful. It shows that collective consciousness aspect in action. You might call it a synchronicity, but I'm like, after 8 years, it's not a synchronicity. It's just how
Right,
this works, you
right,
know? Um, so like that as I mean, the fact that it happens with you, again, I'm like, good, great. Everything's aligned, everything's clicking. If that process is happening, then it's working, right? The thing is happening. Um and also I love the human design stuff because it's like a cheat code for us to understand each other better.
right. Yeah,
It's real, and there is so much to contemplate there. You could probably spend a lifetime just working on your own human design, like let
right.
alone trying to understand your spouse or your child. But all of it is so just infused with really juicy wisdom to help you understand how to interface well with the people that you care about. So like I am a big proponent of human design. I don't use it in my practice, but I use it in my life
Yeah.
because it's a powerful tool. So,
And I was going to say, and that's, from your background and expertise, it's, I used to, people used to say, oh, well, it's like woo woo. And I'm like, but it's not. It's literally science and backed by science. So like, I just did this funny video the other day about the groundhog, right? When we're recording this, it's in February. So in
yeah.
my mind, I'm thinking, somebody please tell me why you guys believe in the groundhog. You use Wi-Fi, you believe in it, but you think that astrology is fake. Like it was just like literally it was a random thought that I literally ask people, and I'm talking the average person. I'm not talking about
Sure.
people that believe in that. And it's like
Right.
I literally wanted to understand the thought process and the again, I'm going to put the assumption of it's conditioning. It's what feels
It's
safe.
force of habit. Hmm.
Yeah, and I understand that, but I really wanted somebody to come in my comments and tell me what it was. And it's like I didn't get that. It's usually these people that are like, "Well, I'm like, okay, I'm not talking to you people." But it's like it's interesting for me because I'm like, I really want to understand the thought process and the perspective on that. And there is some people that have came into my inbox and were like, "Thank you for that video." And it's like those type of videos that I'm like, should I post this? Should I not? It's a funny insight and I'm not making fun of anybody, but maybe I really am if you're looking at it from that perspective of like, you believe
Yeah.
in groundhog, but you don't believe in this, astrology, like Wi-Fi, you can't see it. And beginning, like when you said, especially the things that you work with too, it's like you work with a lot of things that you can't unsee, like tangibly. Sure, I can give you tangible evidence of human design or like tangible stuff, but like what about the woo woo part that I'm like, I
Right. Well, I
love.
just have to say, like, it doesn't take a lot of time to dip your toe in. Like
Right.
no one's
Yeah.
asking Joe Schmo on the street to become a master astrologer or something. But
Right.
I was born and raised in the South, and we say the proof is in the pudding. And
Right.
that is just where I'm at, which is check it out. See
Right.
what you learn. Does it reflect you? Does it make your life better? And
Right.
that's all that really matters. Like, there's so much about the universe that we don't understand. There are some things we may never understand, like how it works is way less important to me than if you are having a good, fulfilling human life where you feel like you're making a meaningful contribution, where your relationships feel good, where you feel good about yourself and who you are. Like, all that, the quality of your experience here matters way more
Right.
than some equation in a box. But it's like, if it helps, use it. Like, why would you be too proud or too, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, for me, I mean, again, it's like I came from being well, I act like it happened in order. It didn't. It all happened together. But it's like, as someone who has always been very mathy, very science focused, learning about esoteric practices and learning about mysticism didn't feel like this spooky thing to me. It was just another topical area to explore. It's just
Right.
more information, more human ideas, more human experiences. Like, why cut yourself off? Why limit what is interesting to you? You don't have to believe anything. You can just learn about it and then see what you think. No, like, no pressure to like infuse any of this with belief. You can just float on down the stream being like, I don't know, it's all pretty weird. And like, you can still make use of it, you know?
Right.
So,
And I
so
love
like
that
I
your message about like the weirdness piece that you just said. Like I mean, it's literally the reason why I named this podcast The Enlightened Misfits, because there's so many people that felt like they didn't fit in, or like they're a misfit, or maybe some of their misfit, like their gifts don't,
sure.
like, specifically one specific thing would be losing relationships or losing part of their identity, or maybe even part of their certainty to like why they're here. So like for your clients, I do know,
Mm.
like with the integration piece is like, how do you help your clients that are in that misfit, I'm just going to call it the misfit act, like, a space that feel like they're losing relationships or identity, or maybe even like their certainty? How do you help with
Sure. So
integration?
yeah, well, this is a great question. And I've talked about this before, but I think it's really important. Um, the reason people get lost is because somewhere along the way, they were taught not to trust themselves.
Mhm.
And like, none of us know everything. So it's like, you need to develop discernment and self awareness. So, like, if you're being a jerk about something and you're wrong, you got to own that you're being a jerk and that you're wrong. You can't just,
Right.
you don't just want to have full trust in yourself, even when you know you're not doing the right thing or that you don't know anything about a topic. That's not what I'm not talking about, this sort of false ego confidence thing. I'm
Right.
talking about being in touch with your own intuition, your own gut response, or the call of your heart, or whatever you want to call it, your intuition. It doesn't, what you call it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's that inner knowingness. It's the part of yourself that isn't this sort of like cognitive machine thinking thoughts and doing math. So we get taught pretty early on not to trust ourselves because we need to learn how to function inside of society. So our parents and the schools and everything else want us to be able to function. That's fair. But a lot of times that means quashing whatever is in us that is really special. And that is the big banner telling us what we're here to do. Why did we come here? Why did we incarnate? Why did each of us say, I'm going to be this person, born of these people in this place? Because in the type of work I do, there's always a really specific set of things or even one single purpose that comes behind why each individual lands here where they are. And of course, using the tool, the like transpersonal hypnosis was made for this, right? Because like people who are earlier on in their journey, their first main question is almost always, what is my purpose? Why am I
Right.
here?
Yeah.
But nowadays I tend to be working with people who are further along in their spiritual journey, and they're not asking that question anymore. So because you either figure it out or
Right.
you remember or whatever. So it's like this is something that is like an early threshold to getting on track with your spiritual progress while you're here as the individual that you are. But again, altered states of consciousness are very helpful for shifting us into a perspective where that information is very easily accessed. It's like not mysterious. It's like, oh, this, and this, or,
Right.
like seriously, it becomes so basic when your perspective is shifted. And
Right.
hypnosis isn't the only way to do it. Almost any technique that will alter your consciousness into a higher, shall we say, frequency rather than a lower one can
Right.
help you. I'm just
Right.
saying, like,
Yeah.
look,
Just yeah, we got to be clear here.
right. But it being able to bump up and see from that higher perspective by any means often helps if this is an issue. And once people know what their purpose is, oftentimes they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? How do I implement my purpose in the world? And I'll just
Right.
tell you what I've heard hundreds of times from hundreds of people, which is it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
up to
Doesn't
you. It's up to you. And that's bad news because a lot of people in the beginning of their journey want someone to give them all the answers. They
Right.
want externally provided answers. So they're like, okay, higher authority, higher self says, this is my purpose and this is what I'll do. So I'll do those things. Well, guess what? When it's time to graduate and bump up to the next level of your spiritual embodiment, no one's going to give you instructions anymore because now you're the creator. It's time for you to figure out how you want to express your purpose in your life. And
Right.
that feels really scary and strange when you're used to being able to call on spirit guides or use tarot cards or whatever to kind of tell you what to do. But
Right.
the training wheels have to come off sometime. And that's usually where I work with people these days. I'm not working with as many people early on who are like, what is my purpose? Most of the people I work with are on track. Like they are very on purpose already, but they don't like how loose everything feels when they stop receiving direct guidance all the time. And
Right.
so, what we're working on fundamentally is self trust because you are the creative heart behind what you're going to create in your life from this point forward. As you become more, well, there are a lot of words for it, but it's like as you're gaining independence as a creative force, as a spirit in the world, as someone who is evoking your being into the physical world like on purpose. Once you get to that point, people call it sovereignty and stuff too, but that can mean different things. But what I mean
Right.
is once you own yourself and your own consciousness and your own boundaries energetically and otherwise, once you're there, it's time for you to start creating. And so if you are feeling radio silence from the unseen world, I would say that's not a bad thing. You are undergoing
Right.
initiation. It's time for
Yeah.
you to make some decisions about what you want to experience and how you would like to embody your purpose and do your work in the world. The world's your oyster.
Yeah. And I was gonna say, I feel like even though that you're talking to hundreds and people, I'm like, I think she's talking to me. This is me because I love tarot cards. I love all of that. I love all of it, but the radio silence piece is what got me. I'm like, sometimes I'm like, what? Nobody's listening.
Yeah,
What?
like knock
Nobody's
knock.
talking. And I'm like, and you just said that. I was like, she's talking to me because I feel like where I'm in that space. And again, I go back to the basics of, well, I trust this decision. This is feels good. And it's like, that's really all I've been doing is kind of integrating the things I've learned in the beginning and then just kind of making a decision from there. And I think that that is very powerful. So thank you for describing what I didn't have any words to put to what was happening lately.
Yeah, but I'm excited for you because it
Yeah,
means you
I'm
get to
excited
like
too.
make a little vision board or do some brainstorming. It's like we all have this kind of unlimited capacity, particularly collectively we absolutely
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Individually, but we all do the best we can.
Right.
And so try to be an artist. Try to approach it like an artist. This is like a new, fresh canvas where
Right.
you can just like let your freak flag fly. Like whatever needs to be expressed is getting an opportunity to do that, as long as you understand that's what this is. This is a creative opportunity, but you're
Right.
understanding that your life or your business or however, whatever aspect you're working on,
Right.
that is your opus. It is your creation. And thinking about it artistically, I find very helpful, because there's less pressure in a way if you're leaning into the way we think about artistic creativity, which is more free, more beautiful, than when we think about producing something that's more like, well, it feels like work, right? But it also
Right.
tends to be more technical and systemy. And it's like, in the space you are, I would encourage you to leave that for after the vision comes together, because it's like
Yeah.
figuring out how you're going to create this beautiful piece of art that is your life or your business from this point forward is the second step. The first step is like that is expressing yourself, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I was going to say thank you for that, because I think it was like this moment of like, so where am I? I felt like the last couple weeks have been like, I'm trying to push myself through a hole. And it's like, I know that I felt like a very sacred time. And then you just saying that was more a validation of, oh, that's what she's talking about. Like that, it's just like, I can't fit through this hole, and it's going to be kind of like when you can't fit through a hole and you're like, I can't go anymore. Like it's more of like that stuff has to be left behind,
mhm,
and it's going to be like new. So yes, I definitely
mhm,
can definitely resonate, and it lands 100% that it's like completely blank, and we're just going to go from honestly self-trust of like where I need to
mhm.
go. And I think that's a really
Yeah,
rare perspective too, especially, now in today's world. Right now, this now moment, I feel like, because, it's not just spiritual, it's all of it together, the energy piece. And I think that's a huge misconception for people that have, maybe a lot of spirituality and science too, them being completely opposite, I think is
sure.
really,
Well,
yeah,
the reality is that none of it is separate. All of it is enfolded together. So
right,
even like our workaday nuts and bolts life is just it's part of this bigger spiritual matrix. So like there
right,
is no opposite there. There is no separation there. We
right,
perceive it as separate by habit, but as you begin to shift that habit and be more aware of the patterns and connections that you see all around you, um, you no longer see it as this separate thing. It's all happening together. It is all completely
right,
knitted together. And so, in a sense, it's like you don't want to feel like you're on a trip all the time, because it's like you need to pay your bills and stuff, right? But
right.
it's like having access to that understanding, so that even when you are working or something, you still know what you're in and understand the process that you're a part of. And for me, that has been the biggest piece of creating that deeper trust and a deeper sense of, I think, satisfaction is a good word to use, but also this kind of, we have this term in the Bible that's like the peace that passeth that surpasseth, what do they say? Like the peace that passeth all understanding. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah,
There,
yeah, yeah,
it's some prayer that I learned as a child, but it's like
yeah,
when I think about what this work, and I don't mean just my work with clients, I mean doing my own work, like
right,
my
yeah,
own inner work, and living in this way. That is what it has provided for me. It's not about ease, it's not about wealth or even like success in our cultural sense of success. It's about the
right,
peace that passeth all understanding. It's the thing that I hold and carry with me all the time, that lets me be here gently without getting hung up on stuff, without getting without getting like buffeted by all the things that happen around us. Like there's a lot that needs doing right now. And many of
Right.
us are being asked to show up in new ways and in ways that require a lot of courage. So it doesn't mean not engaging any longer. It's really about being able to engage with all of this, understanding what it actually is. It gives us courage, it gives us peace so that we can show up in the right way for ourselves and for each other and do our little part. I'm not the, like I always dreamt that like if I was the world dictator, we'd live in a utopia, everything would be rad, and like I know how everybody should live. It's not about that. It's
Right.
about being it yourself. It's about being the master of the self and through that encouraging that mastery in others. We have to do it collectively. We can't do it to each other, but we can do it together.
Yeah, I do. That's the belief that I had, that I just told my mentor probably a couple months ago, that I said, you know what, just some random thought that I was like, I feel like I need to say this, but I do believe that everybody talks about world peace and, healing the world and all of that. And I said, but I feel like if we each individually do it ourselves and then we look back, we'll all help collectively, heal what needs to be healed. And I think that that is the only way to change the world. Like maybe
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong, but I think that that is, it starts with ourselves. And I think that that is very powerful when you just said that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah. Well, Rosa, thank you so much for being here. Truly, this conversation was very expansive for me, and I know the listeners too, grounded and very honest on this kind of episode that I feel like people are going to listen more and more and more, because I think that this is the conversations that we had here is exactly what people want to know more about, to maybe some understanding. So, Rosa, tell us where everybody can connect with you.
Sure. So I'm the most active on Threads and on Instagram. So you can find me on either one. My tag is at It's Rosa Hope. I also have a website, rosa-hope.com, where you can get on my email list and see the events I'm offering. And, if you want to do hypnosis with me, I offer also free connection calls too. So it's like if you don't know what is the right approach for you, but you just feel like we might be a good match to work together, we can just talk about it, and
Yeah.
see where you're at. So
Yeah. And I love that. And also, too, if you're watching this over on YouTube, the description box, her links will be that there too. And as she's also offering the listeners a free bonus. So you would send her a DM and mention that you've listened to her episode on the Enlightened Misfits podcast, and she'll send you the link. This is very generous of her. So thank you for doing this for your journey of empowerment. So this is her guided audio journey through consciousness designed to hone on that expansive, literally everything I think that we talked about in this episode. So
yeah.
thank you for that. That is a very generous gift. I do appreciate you giving that to our listeners. And if you're listening and you're like, okay, Lauren, I need more of these conversations in my life, I also want to invite you into the space where I personally integrate what I'm learning, what I personally am speaking about here into, it's called the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood. That link below will also be in the show notes if you're listening to this. Oh, and if you're watching this, that link also will be over on YouTube. And this sisterhood is a monthly community for intuitive, spiritual led entrepreneurs and leaders, just like you, the ones listening. Or maybe you're not and you want to go deeper into embodiment, nervous system support, maybe human design, intuitive clarity, aligned business growth without that hustle or without that pressure to be anybody but who you are. So, again, I'm so happy that you guys are here with us listening. Thank you so much for the support. Again, check out Rosa's links below in the show notes. And before you go, just make sure you subscribe. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if this conversation hit home for you, please take a screenshot and share. Tag both of us, please. Let her know that you've listened to this episode on the podcast. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you next week.
If today's episode spoke to you and you're ready to rise with support, I'd love to invite you in to the Enlightened Misfits Sisterhood, a sacred community for spiritual entrepreneurs to heal, grow, and lead with purpose. You can join us by using the link below in the show notes or connecting with me over on Facebook or Instagram at The Mermaid Light. If you loved today's episode, subscribe, share, and leave a review. This helps support us reach more women who are ready to rise. Remember, your journey isn't about fitting in. It's about embracing the truth of who you are. Until next time, stay inspired, stay aligned, and keep creating your extraordinary path. This is Lauren, and you've been listening to the Enlightened Misfits Podcast.